Dallas, great to see you. And I'll ask, how are you? But also, how much are you enjoying watching some of these starters really eat in the postseason this year?
I am doing well, and I have at times had to almost like quarantine myself off in a closet somewhere so I can thoroughly just enjoy what I'm watching happen on the mound, because I got a lot of distractions. But I look, I deserve it. I think we all deserve to watch what we are seeing unfold on the diamond this postseason, and I love the idea that the starting pitcher is almost circling back and reminding us just how important it is to have a horse, if not two or three, that you can run out there and start the race and finish it as well. I think if you just look at what we've watched with the Dodgers and you look at what we have seen unfold with the Milwaukee Brewers, you are watching a team, I think, in the Brewers who showed up and said, we feel pretty good about our ability to match up. And, we'll call them out-getters. We've got a starter or two that we like, and we'll label them as such. But from there, we've got a group of out-getters, and we're going to get these outs however we can. Fantastic. You want to know what the Dodgers did? Is they rolled in and said, hey, look at that. That's a stallion. That's a stallion. That's a stallion. You know what we call that? We call that a stable. We're going to open up that door. We're going to let the horses run. And our stable of starters have led the charge. So I think it's just a great refresher. It's a reminder of what you need to have happen on the mound and how it's unfolded on the game's biggest stage, under the game's brightest lights in October. The starters reign supreme.
Do these starters, is it kind of like an analogy with football where the running back or the wide receivers bust it all the way down the field and then they give it to the star running back who didn't get any touches to push it in? Because there's a case where, yes, these starters have been legit and they are Cy Young contenders, all that stuff. But across the playoffs right now, these bullpens, they're down there like, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted. Wait a minute, these guys are getting all the flowers? Like, we did all the work for 162 games, and now these guys are like, I've only made 20 starts. Besides Yamamoto, I'm super fresh. So is it a case of we don't want to go to the bullpen because they're not as good, or because these guys are gassed?
This is the time of year where if you have a guy who is starting the ball game for you and is showing you, because both you boys know, right? Frage, come on. What are we looking for? There's two things that are going to tell us just how things are going on the mound for us, right? The baseball and the other team. If I'm backing up third, guess how good things are going. Well, they ain't going very well, are they? And if the baseball is not making its way back to you, Kratzy, well, then things aren't going well either, right? Because you're no longer a catcher. You're just somebody who's kind of directing traffic out there. So I think what it is if we're talking about running plays and pushing it across the goal line, you have guys that are doing their job and doing their due diligence in a starter's perspective. And then you also have guys like, look at the Mariners bull who are doing a great job of running the tush push when necessary. Guys like Bizzardo, who are coming out and giving you a career long in innings pitched, career long outings in the postseason at the very end of the season. So I think what we're seeing is when teams are doing it right, it's a beautiful concert. It's a beautiful symphony of the starters and the bullpen working together in unison. But I think right now at this time, we understand how important those bullpen arms are to us right now and will be to us in the future here. And we want to do everything we can to squeeze as much juice as we can out of the starter if he's allowing us to, right? Going back to a Snell, going back to a Yamamoto, when you have a little bit of a cushion, you're sending this dude back out into the ninth inning with 97 pitches under his belt, not because you're afraid of what the bullpen can't do, but because you know what you have just watched unfold for 8 innings and what Yamamoto can do.
All right, so to that point, what does a team like the Brewers have to do to get back into this series? Like, what can they do? They're not scoring, so how do they figure this out?
Well, Frage, I mean, that's where it starts and stops, my dude. And you know that. You got to swing the bat. We got to figure out how to generate offense. How do we get on base? If it's not going to be the long ball that's going to propel us, how do we build innings? How do we make these at-bats competitive? Because I think that's something that has been taken away from this, is that the at-bats just don't seem very competitive, and it doesn't seem like, outside of the Churio swing, like what are we getting? What are we doing? It doesn't seem like there's much at all. Like I go back to when I'm watching competitive at-bats unfold, it feels like after a pitch or two, you get an idea of where a guy is going to be able to fight you off and defend. And then I think what I'm seeing right now is guys almost cash in at-bats. And it's tough to think that way because this is a moment in time where if you're the Brewers, you're a team who just doesn't swing and miss, right? You feel like you're constantly in the fight with your bat-to-ball ability, but you're just not generating any sort of threat offensively. And a lot of that credit has to go to what the pitchers have done, to what the starters have done.
All right, the Blue Jays Mariners series. What do you like the most and what do you dislike the most that you've seen just out of these 2 games, not looking forward?
I'm not excited about the fact that, I mean, we identified a trio in Varsho, Clement, and Vladdy who were lights out, who carried the work, right? Who carried the water for him. And right now that's just not the case. And what have they run into? Well, they have run into some guys for the Mariners who they're getting outs on the mound. Are they not? To the tune of what I was just talking about with the game, even that the bullpen comes in and picks up Gilbert, who came in on short rest and got through three and a third or whatever it was. And the bullpen comes in and does their job. So every reason that the Mariners were supposed to be here is unfolding right now because of the success that they've been able to have on the mound, combination of the starters and their relievers, and they're getting just enough offense at just the right time. It's a team that was propelled largely by the long ball, but you have guys like Polanco that are starting to show up and get big hits at just the right time. And when you have an offense that has guys like Crawford, guys like Naylor that can start to contribute, when you have J-Rod show up and plug himself into the middle of the lineup and start to produce in the CS, we're talking championship series, and that's where these guys are starting to show up and reveal themselves. The lineup starts to get a little longer. So now you've got out-getters on the mound in the rotation and the bullpen getting the job done. Frankly, not being able to capitalize on opportunities offensively for the Blue Jays, that's where the shortcoming is.
We talked to Tyler Kepner a little bit ago about Cal Raleigh and how awesome of a season he had. I want to ask you this question. I know I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit, but MVP race, him versus Judge.
Book it. Come on. Book it, Frazier. Book it. Let's go. Look.
Dude, he's a pitcher.
Frazier, look.
No.
Let me ask you, what is the hill that you are standing on built upon when it comes to Judge?
See, I didn't want to be put on the spot. No, I don't care. Hey, listen, for me, it's, and when not a lot of people talk about it, but the average to me is a big component.
Sure.
That is, and that's the old school way of me thinking of it.
Hey, I'm with you when it comes to respecting that, and because I have an appreciation, just like you do, for what it takes to be a guy who can pound the ball out of any yard, out of any park, national park or big league park, it doesn't matter. And that's who Aaron Judge is. But that same dude can also be the catalyst to a big inning by shooting the ball the other way, by picking up a stake with runners on second and third. He doesn't have a pitch that he can drive, but he has a pitch that he can shoot the other way. Those guys are extremely valuable. And when that individual represents the most powerful threat that you have and also is representative of keeping the line moving, that matters. So I'm not somebody who just poo-poos the average and says, yeah, but let's take a look at some of the other numbers here. But I am somebody who absolutely appreciates what Cal Raleigh physically has to do each and every day. And I'll put this in perspective for you too, Frazier. There's not a minute that Aaron Judge shows up to the ballpark where he's being asked to put his productivity on the back burner for anybody else on his team. That is never something that Aaron Judge is being asked to do. If anything, he's being asked to do more. Cal Raleigh shows up in spring training knowing that his job is to, with kid gloves, handle the starting rotation and get to know the extension of not only the big league bullpen, but the AAA bullpen and starting rotation as well. That will without a doubt be a factor in their pursuit to their first World Series championship in organization's history. And he will also be the one who's pressing the pitch count buttons, who's in the squat for each and every ball game just about. So the demand physically of the position, that is something that I also factor in as well. And when you have a dude who is pounding the ball the way that Cal Raleigh is, more homers than any switch hitter that the game has ever seen. He's setting franchise records as well, all while steering the pitching staff in the way that he has. There's a lot of, dare I call it, value there. Mm-hmm. And he might be the most valuable player when I think about what he brings to the table on both sides of the ball.
I love to hear it. I got to be honest. You kicked my butt there. Let me ask you this one question, though, and I want to see what you're saying. You got to face this year Cal Raleigh or Aaron Judge 50 times. Who would you rather face?
I would like to face Cal Raleigh 50 times, please.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. And how do you think you would fare against both those guys?
Right now? Yeah. Right now, Frazier? Not great.
In your prime. In your prime.
Sure. I'm probably going to have a little more success against a guy like Cal Raleigh, just because I feel like I'm going to have a better opportunity to move the baseball around on him and beat him to a spot, as opposed to where a guy like Aaron Judge, should I even be able to beat him to a spot, that ball probably gets fought off somewhere. I just think Cal might be a little longer from the right side and someone that I could maybe crowd a little bit and just kind of get him in that rocking chair. That's where I'm going to have my success against a guy like him. For Judge, that's probably a guy that I am going to have to treat like, for me, the count is 3-0, and I'm trying to get back into this thing every time, and that is a terrible way to try to get out.
Can I interest you in Surfshark VPN, which allows you to mask certain parts of your surfing around the web? Or let's say you're somewhere and you're like, I don't need this app to know where I am 24/7. That pops up on your phone all the time. Surfshark can help you out with that.
Privacy and protection. I love it.
Surfshark keeps your online activity private, and you can appear in a different location. That's where you can get help with the online services or apps that are constantly asking you where you are. Change or hide your virtual location and surf safely with Surfshark VPN. So go to surfshark.com/Fowler. Use code FOUL at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. A risk-free 30-day money-back guarantee is there for you, and you can secure your digital life with Surfshark VPN by hitting the link below for an extra 4 months of Surfshark. Don't let online threats catch you off guard. This has been your tech update. Keep your data safe and take control of your online security with Surfshark.
What's your favorite postseason moment so far this year, where you're like, man, that was so cool to watch?
There's no recency bias involved here. I think it's Yamamoto coming back out for the 9th inning, because the question mark there with the pitch count and what we were seeing. And this is where the bias of being a starting pitcher comes into play. And I want to see these sort of signature moments. I want to see these hallmark moments for our game's hallmark players. And this is a guy who just got breaded up and brought in, and there were question marks even from some former big leaguers who were going, really signing that paycheck after not having, he hasn't thrown a pitch here. Are we sure it's worth it? CG, CS, I think it's worth it. But I think it also just does a lot more for the narrative of how strongly I feel about starting pitching and what it means to our game, not just in the postseason, but on the whole, in its entirety.
All right. Now, I remember back to your perfect game. I still don't know if you did this or not. It looked like it, like you were celebrating. You kind of like pounded your chest, and it looked like you looked over and you were like, my bad. Like you didn't want to push it in their face. Is that true or not true?
100% true. Yes.
Okay. So that's what it looked like. So how do you feel about teams right now when they finish a team out, dunking on them and hanging on the rim like some of the teams have so far, with celebrations after the game, pointing in their dugout? How do you feel about that? Because it feels like it completely contradicts that moment in history for you and what they're doing.
Yeah, I have always been a big proponent of trying to elevate the individuals who are wearing the same colors I am in a moment like that. And I think from a competitive standpoint, it's because we've all been on the other end of that, right? And I think at that moment, the line has been drawn, the hay is in the barn, this dance is done. And why would I want to spend any more time burying the people or the individual that I just buried? Like, the dirt's on the coffin. That's a done deal. Mm-hmm. Like, why don't we celebrate? Why don't, you know what I mean? Why don't we enjoy this over here? And so, I've always, like, when it comes to pimping the homer, like my whole thing has always been, you want to make eye contact with me? Well, you have now made it personal. You have now signed your name on the dotted line. And at whatever moment that contract gets called, we'll figure that out later. But you have signed your name on the dotted line. If you're not making eye contact and this isn't personal and you're just pumped and bro, I'm not so egotistical to not understand how excited you are in the moment, but you haven't made this personal for me. So I would then have to be feeling some sort of way individually. And I don't carry that with me. So when I see individuals bring in the opponent, like, during the aftermath, and they start to make it about I don't know. I don't know if it's the era that I grew up in the game. I don't know if it's the neighborhood that I grew up in, but those are just lessons that I learned very early. Like you're going to have to pay that back at some point in time or another. And maybe that's just because our game no longer allows that. You no longer get to hold people accountable for things like that. And I think something else that we have to remind ourselves of is each and every year we're getting closer and closer to what we have referred to as the travel ball era. Continuing to, I don't want to say infiltrate because it sounds like they're not welcome, but I think continuing to populate our game at its highest and most competitive levels. And what we saw unfold on social media 10, 15 years ago when it came to celebrating and bat flipping in Little League, why would you think that would stop now?
Yeah.
Totally.
It's not gonna.
No. It's gonna keep going.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're only getting closer to that line, boys. We're only getting right.
God.
Like all the old heads, we're dying. We're dying off. Meaning we're hanging up the uniform and we're not on the diamond anymore. And how we look at it and how we played it, frankly, nobody cares. Nobody even wants to hear about it anymore. Right?
No.
Even the guys that are in those dugouts and in those clubhouses. I always go back to Big Papi being very public and open about feeling like he wasn't even welcomed or nobody even wanted to hear what he had to say in the spring training complex. Like, what? Yeah, outside of your mind.
Game. Yeah, and you see it like Kratz, he coaches high school. I coach travel ball for younger kids, and it drives me crazy seeing some of the antics that they do. I tell my kids, you do something like that, you're sitting at least 1 or 2 innings. Like, I just can't deal with it. And it doesn't even matter because eventually when somebody else coaches them, they're going to do whatever the heck they want anyway. But I have to try. I have to try.
And brother, you don't need this encouragement from me, my dude. The back of your baseball card looks very different than mine. But I would just say, continue to do what you do, man. Continue to try to implement and instill the respect for the game, because it's the respect for the game that translates into respect for your teammates and respect for your opponents. And what they hopefully eventually find out is that's what you're playing this game for at the very end of it all, right? Somebody called it a shiny piece of metal one time, and that would be fun to have too. But the respect of your opponents, the respect of your teammates, the respect of the people watching the game, I think that's pretty important as well. And anytime I can learn those lessons from a big leaguer like Todd Frazier, I'd like to think that I'm going to shut my mouth and open my ears and maybe learn that lesson.
You'd be amazed.
The kids are like, "Who are you?"
The parents.
I'm 7. I didn't watch you play.
Yeah, exactly.